and Tim Southwell, and I think Bill's with us, and Whitney from the team, and I think Bill's going to be primarily presenting. But we're going to probably start recording in about 30 seconds here. And then we've got Mark, obviously, with us, and Reed. And I am sitting in an amazing location. You guys know that over the last 4.5 years, a little over 4 years, we've done these webinars from all over the world. I haven't done one from here, but I'm sitting on a porch looking to the west near Boise, Idaho. And it's just in a little canyon called Canyon Creek. And it's just amazingly beautiful here. So why don't you go ahead and start the recording, Mark? All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to today's incredible Peak Community webinar, where we have, for the second time, a guest. And I remember vividly, very clearly, when I interviewed Tim the first time, I was actually not at quite a beautiful spot like this. Tim, I don't know if you recall it, because I think I did talk about it. I was at the old Kodak plant in Windsor, Colorado. I had a business meeting before that. It was a dreary day. I remember that clearly. And I interviewed Tim, and at that time, we just talked completely about his life as essentially a farmer, an ecotourism operator, and so on. Well, anyway, Tim has come a long way since then, and we have with us today Tim and Bill and Whitney, and I'm going to let them each introduce themselves from Yonder. We have Mark and Reed that are here with me, and Mark's in Pakistan, and Mark's in Bangladesh, and Reed is in Pakistan, and I think Whitney is probably in Austin, and Bill is probably in the LA area, and unless I'm wrong, Tim is probably in the Missoula, Montana area, and I'm here in Boise, Idaho. So we're all over the world. As we're speaking to you, and you're seeing what we have. So this is going to be exciting because, as you've heard me say, I have become more than just a fan of Yonder. As a matter of fact, I didn't even know the Yonder existed 6 months ago. Tim actually introduced it to me in a lot of the same ways probably going to be introducing it to you today. And based on that introduction, over time, he asked me to become more involved with Yonder, and I am now helping Yonder as a company. I have a huge passion for it. I'm helping them get stewards, which he'll explain what that means. I'm helping with getting some guests. I am a guest myself. I've already picked 3 different places that I'm going to be going to. I have also invested myself, and I'm also helping Yonder with what they're doing on the fundraising side. So this is not just something where this is sort of a non-passionate group that I just have enjoyed because I found them or we've interviewed them somewhere. This is now something that I have a huge personal interest in. So I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to let Tim introduce himself, and Whitney and Bill, and then Bill, Tim and I are going to just chat for just a few minutes, and then Tim has a really great presentation he's going to do for you. So Tim, why don't you just say hi and maybe introduce Bill and Whitney and describe what their roles are with Yonder.
Thank you very much, Wayne. Very warm introduction. So thank you very much. And I'm flattered that, you remembered our first time together. I believe it was approximately 3 years ago this month when ABC Acres was just coming off of Justin Rhodes' Great American Farm Tour. And I believe he either introduced us or you reached out. And that's when I first got the first taste of the EAT community and what you're doing, and certainly applaud and champion all the things you are doing. So I'm excited to be 3 years hence and working somewhat in parallel. Very excited about that. And as you alluded to, Wayne, yes, my wife and I, we run ABC Acres here in Hamilton, Montana, an hour south of Missoula. But over the last few years, through an evolution of thought and experience, we have started up a Yonder, an online travel booking platform. I look forward to talking to you about that today and really engaging the audience on the possibilities. With that said, we also have in the background, not on the camera, and they're welcome to jump in, but we have Bill Lee, CEO of Yonder, and then we have Whitney Altafi with the management, chief operating marketing, excuse me. And honestly, the one responsible for creating the lovely presentation today. So cheers and thank you to Whitney for that. With that, if those two wanted to pop on and say hello, unless they're doing some other things, we can just jump right into this, Wayne, and move forward.
Yeah, I'm just going to briefly say I've had the pleasure of having multiple phone calls now with Bill. Bill is an amazing businessman and has done a lot of really great things in his career already. A huge find for Yonder. He's down in Southern California, as I mentioned earlier. And Whitney and I have just gotten to know each other, but we have some commonality. Whitney lived in the Denver area until very recently, when here during the middle of the pandemic, she and her husband and her family moved to Austin, Texas, for a number of reasons, but one is that they wanted to get there so her child, their daughter, could be in school, but that's now obviously a weird situation because of the pandemic. And the funny thing is, we ended our call, the last call we had just a couple of days ago, and we're talking about you, Arid, and Mark, and about a little bit about sort of like what I would call the Arabic culture, and the two of you and how we've become like father, me being a father, each guy's kind of sons. And she said, well, I understand that pretty well since my husband's from Iran. So obviously you're Iran, Iraq. I'm not sure I'm remembering, but Whitney can correct me about that. But so even culturally here, we're in an interesting situation in terms of staff. And as Tim said, Whitney's going to be doing a lot of things related to marketing with Yonder. So let me get questions, and then he's going to go into his presentation. Tim, remind everybody about your background. Unless you got anything you've got in the presentation, you can just say, hey, you should be in the presentation. Just kind of, kind of where you are in the family and so on.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate that. Just for 2 minutes. My background originates from the city of Houston and a college degree and working corporate America and starting a family. And over that time, introduced to the mountains of Montana. I'd always been interested in health and wellness, but it was more on the physical side, strength training, lifting weights. And it was only as a family came along, we started to develop parenting skills and understanding the dynamic elements of our individual children, and one under the autism spectrum, and learning about nutrition and health and wellness and how that can positively or negatively impact your lives. And so we made a concerted effort 10, 12 years ago to focus on organics, to focus on, chemical-free, synthetic-free lifestyle when it came to consumption. And that led us to growing our own foods and pursuing more of a independent pursuit in our livelihood day to day. And opportunity allowed for us to make a full-time jump to Montana. And that's really where the farming took off, where the dip into agritourism took off, and where this evolution towards where we are today. It's all been a process that we've been learning from day in, day out. And I think of the farm and now as Yonder as my fourth child as we continue to nurture it and see it grow alongside our efforts.
And Tim, tell us just briefly a little bit about, you mentioned wife and kids, so tell us about your wife, where'd she come from, how you guys met, and
sure. Yeah, I mean, we certainly get granular like that. I grew up in Houston, graduated from U of H, met my wife there. We got married, we moved to the West Coast in banking and international trade, and we did that for a number of years. Long hours, long commutes, long work hours, probably at each other's, going at each other, questioning what was the purpose of all of this. And we found Montana, and Montana was the breath of fresh air we needed at a time in our lives when we were going maybe too crazy. And then seeing the beauty in that, trying to make a concerted effort to make a full-time commitment to Montana, the family started coming along, and now I have a 14, an 11, and a 9-year-old sons. Their names Atticus, Bodie, and Caspian, hence ABC Acres. And we enjoy the day-to-day here on the farm with all the tasks that the farm demands, the homeschooling that we take on, and the connection to community through both of those endeavors. So outside of that, my wife particularly, she does majority of the homeschooling in the morning. I do that in the afternoons, not today, of course, with this endeavor. But she's also doing her own business. Grow Wise Be Well is a metaphysical self-help business that's ongoing with an intent to create a private label curriculum based on a narrative-based, place-based curriculum that will be sold nationwide. So we've got our fingers in a lot of things, and it keeps us young.
Awesome. Well, two last questions. I'll make this one the second to the last. Tell us how those now growing up young men get involved in the farm activities. Just kind of broadly, what kinds of things do they do around it to make sure that members of the family, they're certainly old enough to do these things.
Yeah. Sometimes it's like, pulling teeth trying to get them to do things. Other times it's just like, hey, they're gangbusters. I will tell you, my oldest two, my 14 and 11-year-old, they started working for the farm this year. So they were putting in morning hours from 8 to 12, Monday through Friday, which is great. They get to see and understand not only the tasks from the livestock and the irrigation and harvesting of product, but the questions that go in. Do we invest in this? What's going on with this animal system? How do we make choices today that impact positively or negatively tomorrow's allocation of disposable dollars from the farm? So trying to build them into the inner workings of the business. At the same time, a real treat when you get to write your son's first paycheck, because I remember mine, 1988, Miller's Outpost. I worked 2 weeks and I think I got a paycheck for $36, and my father was so happy that I was making $3.60 an hour. And I vividly remember that. And he spoke to the importance of the dollar bill, and it stayed with me ever since. And now I get the chance to write the paycheck to the kids, and let's hope they're saving some of it. Most of it goes to Legos, but it's certainly good to see them a part of the farm and getting an appreciation for the effort that goes in to the final product.
By the way, a little commonality is I have a 14-year-old and a just turned 11-year-old grandson that obviously my son and daughter-in-law, they spend time with us on the farm. And I guess I would describe the way that we deal with them getting work done similar to what you do. It's hard sometimes, and other times right at it. One last question, and then we're going to turn it over to you for your presentation. How has the COVID situation affected your farm and what you do there, and then maybe a little bit about Yonder, how it's affected Yonder?
No, I appreciate that, and I will touch on that definitely during the presentation on Yonder. But I can tell you, this year for us, when the pandemic started rolling out in February, March, we got immediate cancellations for all of our different agritourism engagements, whether they were lodgings or activities across the board. We got cancellations. But as soon as the country started opening up again in May, we immediately rebooked. And this has been the best year that I have had at ABC Acres with regards to lodgings and activities, both from the number of people coming and the revenue earned. And we'll talk to this a little bit more in the presentation. But during this whole process, through first and second quarter, there has been a realization, an appreciation for the magic of nature. And we as a society have seen it rebound with the global population taking a break, whether you're seeing clear skies in Shanghai or clear water in Venice. You're seeing what were extinct or thought extinct animals resurfacing. Nature is very vibrant, and we as a society are seeing that. And I believe wholeheartedly that we got a palatable taste for that. And when the opening came out, people wanted to experience that, and that's certainly been our result here at ABC Acres, as well as Yonder. And we'll speak to that a little bit as well.
Well, that's a great transition, I think, into moving you into your presentation about Yonder. And before you do that, I just want to say one more time, Tim is not just a great speaker, which he is. He is, I will just tell you, genuinely off the charts, passionate about everything he's going to tell you about in this presentation. This isn't just another, as you mentioned, it isn't just his fourth child. It is truly, I mean, maybe that's a really good description, because he treats it as if it's that, because it's that important to him and the Yonder team, because he just believes in it that strongly. And he was able to convince me to have a very similar belief, and thus is why I'm personally involved, which, by the way, you know, the hundreds of these presentations that I am able to host on every couple month basis, you know, that's a rare situation. I don't have any involvement in 99.9% of the groups that we interview, but this is a circumstance where I do, so obviously I'm more passionate about it, and I care greatly about what Tim's going to talk about. So Tim, turn it over to you.
Well, thank you very much, Wayne. With that said, I probably would ask Reed to allow me to do the screen share would be fantastic. Let's see. Okay, so I would ask really quick, can people see my screen?
Yes, we can.
You can. Perfect. Fantastic. Well, first of all, I want to thank you, Wayne, for that lead in about passion for this, because I think you have to have that in anything you do. This evolution of ABC Acres and then seeing the opportunity Yonder was not crafted by a couple of guys in a boardroom in Manhattan on the 52nd floor of a skyrise. This was out of a passion for farming, a passion for connection to people, and seeing an opportunity that wasn't offered for ABC Acres, and that allowed this to grow and allowed me to put my energies into it. So with that, I want to dive into the history of Yonder, how this evolved from my farming endeavor, and just take it from there to the end. So what I'm going to show you is a little bit of backdrop of my farm here in Montana, just to give you a basis for where I'm coming from. My wife and I, Sarah and I, we operate an 80-acre farm in southwest Montana. We're a permaculture farm. We run different beef, pork, poultry products. Again, we started in 2012. Got going as a homestead in 2013. By 2014, people were asking for some of our products and didn't really know much about it. This wasn't really the plan, but we got into it. And for you farmers out there, for you landowners, this is a labor of love. It is a passion. We have reasons to focus on healthy land stewardship, healthy foods. It has been a wonderful benefit for my autistic child and our family overall. And so we committed to that. And at the end of the day, it is still a business, and it's a tough business. Most people don't get into farming to get rich. And at the end of the day, you're still trying to decide how you spend your earned disposable dollar for the best results for the company, because you never know when an early winter's coming or a heavy rain system that can affect it. But I wanted to just showcase that the struggles of operating a farm, I had started to learn about agritourism in 2015, 2016. So it was in 2016 when ABC Acres first dove into this concept of agritourism, opening up your farm, your land, and engaging the general public for income opportunities. And whether that's lodging or whether that's an activity, I didn't know much about it, but we needed to try something new on the farm to bring some economic livelihood to it. And so that's what we did. And so in the summer of 16, we had our first engagement with a farm stay guest. And the young lady on the right was our first guest. And I really, this speaks volumes. I really want you to look at her face. I want you to try to imagine the emotions, this complete wonder, awe, this just an amazing emotion. And I didn't know it then in 2016, but I can tell you now, this became a common thread. Every single farm stay guest, activity lodging, whether 3 or 93, has this same expression. When people come to the farm, they get to unplug from their handhelds. They don't have rush hour traffic. All of a sudden, there is a sense of wonder and joy that they take on in the most simplest of experiences. And what a blessing for me as a farmer to be able to witness this. And so you got to experience people from coming all over the land. And there was discovery and learning, whether we were taking tours and talking about rotational grazing plans, or we were in this instance, our goat paddocks and showing our rotational grazing system. A lot of discovery, a lot of learning, Q&A, showcasing how we care for the land, how we steward the land for healthy food options for our family and for the local community. And maybe most important of all, or at least the common denominator that I feel encompasses all of this, is a connection. So many of us lead lives outside of our authentic selves, day to day, week to week in the big city, the hustle and bustle. Got to get to work in the rush hour. Got to get the soccer mom kids to the practice. Children on their handhelds. Never a family dinner with a conversation. And so this finding of yourself, this reconnection to a spouse, to children, to family, is so very important. And I've been blessed in 2016 and 2017, where these photos were captured. I got to see that. I got to have communication exchanges with these travelers and hear firsthand how they were seeing a whole new opportunity. And so that's what I took from that year and a half, 2016 summer to 2017. I jumped into agritourism with both feet. We offered activities from livestock feedings to nature observation walks to project tours that really didn't interrupt my day-to-day schedule on the farm, as well as we had lodging opportunities that were very successful. And in the course of a year and a half, the agritourism income surpassed my product sales, and now, 3 years hence, is the dominant income stream for the farm. And so it got me thinking at the end of 2017, how could we grow this? How could I reposition myself, ABC Acres, more prominently in 2018 to grow on our success? And I was doing an internal audit in 2017, October 2017, where I realized that we, the farming community, the agriculture community, were really being underserved out on the online travel platforms. There was nothing out there about a farm connection. And I didn't understand that because I had great ratings. I was receiving wonderful reviews, but people were still having trouble finding me. And I was having trouble advertising, marketing myself to this newfound exuberance, this magic that I was witnessing for both myself, dare I say, for the relationships, but also the income. But at the same time, the guests, allowing them to connect with something that is so innately in us, which is a connection to nature. And so started brainstorming in the fourth quarter of 17 and had a relationship and still have a relationship with Bill Lee, who was a mentor of mine. And we started playing with the idea. And in 2018, we asked the question, can we look to create a dedicated, authentic online presence for the agricultural community, for the nature-based community that tells their story, that allows the traveler an easy place to connect into, to understand that these places do exist, takes the hunting out of trying to find a horseback riding adventure in Texas or a canoe trip in Colorado. It centralizes it all in. And so we answered, yes, we can do this. The market's there, it's fragmented, but if I learned anything at ABC Acres, the palatable connection between farmer and guest is intoxifying. At the same time, it builds such community because by people coming to my farm and supporting my endeavors, it allows me to continue to cultivate the land. And that allows me to sell product to my local community. And so it kind of comes full circle there. At the same time, allowing the guest to take that information home with them. Then they go to the farmer's market on a Saturday and they're now supporting their local farming enterprise. And so you have this connection of economy and agriculture that comes together for something very special that helps everyone included. And so it was just formulated over this time that the purpose of Yonder was creating a harmonious world by connecting people to nature. We realized that Yonder, acting as a conduit, connecting the yearning traveler to the steward managing their land. And I digress, let me just say that in Yonder, we refer to our hosts as stewards. These are men and women that passionately get behind what they're doing. They're not in it to make $1 million. They believe in land management. They believe in stewarding towards a better tomorrow for the next generation. And so by being a conduit to connect these people in a nature space, we're developing the ability to create a better and healthier tomorrow for not only people today, but the generation tomorrow. And it all just sits with connection. You've seen over the last year or two this nature as the antidote and doctors giving out prescriptions for a health pill, which is basically just saying get out. Studies have shown blood pressures are lower and children are more focused. And I heard from moms for the last 3+ years that they have conversations with their children at the dinner table now when they're on a Yonder stay. So it's this connection to nature, which allows a connection to community and self, family, and other. And what I think is so wonderful about Yonder's presence is, and I led the talk with this comment, that Yonder is an evolution of my own lack of service in the online arena. It wasn't created in a metropolis somewhere. I have walked the walk. I talk the talk. My love and passion lies in the soil. And that has transferred to the stewards that we have continued to communicate with, that we have continued to add into the Yonder family as a part of our large steward database today that continues to grow. And there's an appreciation for that. This is not some sales pitch. This is a real opportunity to foster something pretty spectacular for generations to come. And with that said, I have more that I'd like to talk about, but Wayne, if you'd like, I thought we'd just take a few minutes. Maybe there's something on your mind you'd like to, maybe some Q&A now, or we can continue on.
Well, it's maybe a good time to do a little Q&A. Mark, if you see any questions from the audience, why don't you throw them in? Do you have anything?
No, there are no questions right now. There's nothing from audience for now.
Okay. Well, let me start with one that I have for the audience and for Tim, because I know the answer to this, but I want you to hear it. First, I'm going to preface the question with the comment. We are going to send out an email in the very near future, probably late this week, early over the weekend, with a poll in it for all of you. and for the entire membership of each, which is getting close to 30,000 now, the number of people. And that's going to be real simple. We're going to ask how many of you would potentially like to be stewards yourself and have the same experience that Tim was just described to you, or a similar one. And then how many of you obviously could be potentially guests, which I think that's probably many of you, but maybe we'll make our questions more to where, what kinds of places would you like to go to? You know, that you're going to see when you're able to visit the Yonder website that and Mark has probably been showing it, again, because I'm doing this in a remote situation, I actually am not seeing the slides myself on the screen. But he's probably been showing the website where you note up in sort of categories the kinds of places that are out there, and so it's a filtering these, you know, farms or nature specifically, or mountains, or a variety of other categories. So we're going to have that poll for you. I really ask you to open the email and then respond to the poll. So when I first started learning about Yonder, I asked Tim this question, so this is not a surprise to him. Tim, what is your biggest limitation for growth of Yonder? Which of these three things? Funding, having enough stewards, or getting enough guests? Which one do you think is going to be your biggest potential limitation over time?
Wow, you know, those are all critical elements with regards to our success. We've been very pleased with our early steward uptick. We started with a very active approach in 2019, paralleling the building of our platform, where we were reaching out to the local national communities, and we were bringing people on. We have a fantastic Yonder internal team called our Scouts, really bright individuals that speak highly to the curation and vetting process that goes into becoming a Yonder steward, because we just don't let anybody in. And so that started early on in 2019 and progressed all the way up until our launch in March, where we launched with about 2,500 stewards in total. We have seen that continue to grow exponentially as we are here today, with continued intent for 15,000 plus by the end of the year. So we're very pleased on that front, and we've put in the effort for it, and we'll continue to do that. With regards to the guests, you can't have one without the other. We have seen personally, for me at ABC Acres, I've seen that magic. We have had fantastic 5 months, month over month, of increased bookings each month, increased revenues, and increased user interaction engagement. And so that just needs to continue on when we're getting the feedback from them, which we are, about these amazing experiences, ones that I reiterated earlier in my presentation. That word of mouth with regards to our guest interaction is invaluable. And we will continue to engage them on that, both personally through Yonder Stays and Yonder's engagements, but at the same time through various marketing and social media outreach. So those two are very important to us. At the same time, and lastly, fundraising is a critical part. We're a startup. We're in the early stages of this right now. And so we've started with early capital from the founding team, from the management team, that has allowed us to move forward to this point. But as you are aware, Wayne, and some others as well, that with any startup, there are stages that you raise funds to continue the next step forward. And we currently are in a fundraising round over the next few months. And so through the WeFunder, crowdsource funding is just one avenue what we're doing, which I'm very excited about. And if you allow me, I'll just go a little further on it. One of the things that I love about Yonder, and it honestly was the first reason why I wanted to pursue Yonder in 2017, because there's an opportunity for us to create increased revenue streams for the hardworking farmers out there. And I wanted them to know that, you know, all that hard work, all that passion could be rewarded with a guest stay or an activity. And so at the same time, when we got into this fundraising arm, most fundraising, when you've heard about Microsoft or Apple or Nike, I mean, they're reserved for these accredited investors. And you're like, oh, I wish I would have known about that. Well, the crowdsource funding is a relatively new endeavor in the fundraising arm, and it allows people to get behind new businesses for as low as $100, $250. And so when I think about how we're trying to bring income independence to our farmers by engaging in Yonder's platform, this is just another way that we're trying to spread the ability for those that get connected with Yonder to succeed as we succeed. So I know there'll be there'll be a handout about that in the handout section of this platform, but I do encourage folks, if so interested, to take a look at that fundraising opportunity, and happy to answer any questions about that. So I know that maybe didn't answer, Wayne, because I said all three are important, but at the end of the day, they're all very important.
That's great. And now I'll reiterate a little bit more on the fundraising side. I think it's better for me to do it than even for Tim, because I'm somebody who has invested in that crowdfunding side. Honestly, I want to do stays. I want to go visit to some of these stewards. If you use the WeFunder program and you invest anything 250 and above, and by the way, you can invest as little as 100, and you are now getting an ownership position in the company. You're going to be able to see projections of all the financials moving forward and so on. So this is legitimate and legitimate potential for you to make potentially, a gain on your investment. But if you do 250 up to 1,000, you actually then get discounts. That's one of the benefits of what crowdfunding does. Most crowdfunding opportunities give the people that are funding not just their investment value, but also what's called a donative value. And then in this case, the donative value is a discount on stays. Well, if you stay at a place that, with your whole family, let's say, and you get these discounts for 5 days at a place that was $500 a night, which could be, it sounds a little expensive, but if there was 6 or 7, 8 of you or whatever, that wouldn't be a crazy number. Out of that discount, you get a discount from your funding if you were to put $1,000 in of 50%. So that means for 5 night stays, you get $250 a night discount. You just now made $250 on your stay, and still you invested $1,000. So that is a really incredible donative benefit that you get. So I encourage you to look at that. Look at the WeFunder page and see how that works.
Yeah.
So your answer to it was great. When we first talked, you did say that you felt long term, though, that and it was a surprise to me, that actually having enough stewards was going to be more problematic than eventually getting enough guests, because, as you said, it's a chicken and egg thing. Those guests, once they have one great day, they want to find somewhere else that they can go, and you want to make sure you have.
It's a fair point.
Oh.
This is a learning endeavor. We have. I have to tip my cap to business development and Bill Lee with continuing to mine opportunities. And I may speak to this a little bit later in the presentation, but the reality is the agritourism market nationally and internationally is so fragmented. There are a lot of small enclaves doing their year-to-year operation, and no one's talking to each other. They're equally lost, but they have their steward base. And so through some very inventive ways, we have started to run parallel courses with Farmstay USA, for example. We now have a working relationship with them, and they're a fantastic outfit with some lovely steward properties on there. And we're replicating that and working with other facets nationally and internationally that I feel very excited about, not only the depth of the unique, authentic stay that those stewards will bring, but I also think there'll be an aggressive uptick in our steward numbers from here on out for the foreseeable future. So, and this has been a learning, Wayne. We've got some fantastic talent, creative professionals in the Yonder team, and they are grinding it out every day, finding new things. And and we're young enough that we pivot. I mean, we see opportunities and we go get it. I mean, this is an early stage startup. It's all about succeeding and winning, and that's the name of the game. And we got great people doing it, and we have farmers and guests that round it all out. So thank you for bringing that up.
And then one last question for me before I let you just go back into a little bit more of your presentation.
Sure.
How would you say that the current user experience on the Yonder website is better?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
Yeah, than might be any of the others. I'm not going to mention names, but you know, there's a lot of them out there that are in a lot of states.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
I appreciate the question, and you know, I'll touch on some of the intricacies of the Yonder platform, which separates it from the others. So with that, we can jump in if you'd like, and I'll hit that in these last 10, 12 minutes or so.
yeah, keep moving.
Fantastic. So if I can just figure out how to share my screen again, then we're good to go. There we go. All right. That's why I'm on the farm, because technology. I should ask my associate Bill to help me out with this, because he's the tech savvy one. I know he's laughing right now. Sorry. So just a quick deep dive into Yonder, and we touched a little bit up on this, but one of the things that I didn't know back in 16 and 17 were some of these industry problems. We learned through my frustrations early on, not being found by the interested public, that we were indeed fragmented. You had, I mentioned Farm State US, but you had other enclaves, ranches, and vineyards, both nationally, internationally, just weren't talking to each other. There was no concentrated umbrella to be their voice. At the same time, the societal problems that we knew of last year. I mean, again, kids more on their handhelds than talking to their parents, dual incomes, hustle and bustle, traffic, mortgage payments. I mean, it was at a breaking point. And then you throw in this whole COVID thing, which has escalated tensions simply probably because you just sometimes don't know what answers to get from what department head. You never know what the truth is and where things are going. It's changing week to week. And at the same time, we saw that people had lost this connection with nature. And that was reaffirmed in March, April, May, when we saw the magic of nature on the television screen. So that builds into what I said earlier about Yonder being this conduit, or getting a nature pill from last year. Nature is the antidote. And we have a superb team of scouts that have a very heightened curation, vetting process to ensure that when you engage with a Yonder steward, you are going to get an authentic experience in nature. That means when you open up your door, nature is off the deck. We are not a high-rise apartment. We're not a house in a subdivision. We are a nature immersive destination. And so that frames things out from a standpoint of the experience that is different from the other guys. The reality is the other guys, they care about getting you to a place for the cheapest dollar per night at any one location. Sure, you can go see the show, the museum, the ball game, but when you come back to their place, there's nothing special about it. You might have dinner, you might watch a movie, and you go to bed. Yonder is about the destination. Yonder is the destination. Sure, you may go off site and you may go on a river rafting ride, or you might take a hike through the woods, but when you come back to your Yonder destination, that's why you're there to begin with. You can sit on the deck and take in a sunset. You can jump in and do a livestock feeding. You can walk with the steward and learn about the history of the land and what he or she does to put into a regenerative approach to agriculture. And for me personally, I've experienced people will come here for 5 to 7 days and they don't leave this location. So certainly a distinction between the two. Another thing that we're very excited about, you talked about user interface. This is all a learning process. I can't begin to understand the tech guys and what they go through. I'm not a coder, I'm a farmer, but we are constantly updating the platform to be more receptive to a heightened user experience. And one of the things that is recently, as of about 6 weeks ago, we came up with our new search functions, which is state of the art. And you'll notice that you'll be able to find, as this particular site shows right now, find a treehouse in Ohio, or you might do horseback riding in Texas, or a kayak ride in Colorado. And the search function has the ability to triangulate and give you choices to make your search more efficient. And if I've learned anything in this day and age that we live in as a society, time is money. And we want to be respectful of the guests, understanding that they want to get their answers to their questions just as soon as possible. And speaking to that, if you look at the right side of the screen, we're really interested in developing a relationship with guests. Again, it's been hard in the past for them to understand where they can find rich destinations. There was not one all-encompassing site that they could go to. So we are working very hard to establish not only a deep, rich database of stewards, but also parallel alignment with organizations nationally and internationally to funnel those in to one Yonder location, so guests will have the efficiency of time to be able to go to one-stop shop and be able to find what they're looking for. And for your members, you mentioned something, a little tickler with regards to the WeFunder, but at this time as well, EAT members have the opportunity for 10% off of an overnight stay or an activity by entering that code. So please take note of that code, EAT 2020. And as you play with the Yonder website, as you go to different stewards, seeing their activities, their lodgings, you can inquire about them, find out the availability. When you go to book, there is a promotional code location, and you can just enter that in and that will take effect. So very excited about that as just another tool to enhance our relationship and just say thank you to the EAT community for their time today and moving forward. At the same time, some of the findings that I had at the end of 17 was, who spoke for me? Who told my story? How could I have a relationship with a platform that would allow me to realize more earning potential and more visibility to the traveling consumer? And that is what we have created here at Yonder. And much like the EAT 2020 opportunity for the traveling EAT community guests, we wanted to extend an opportunity to any of the EAT community here that look forward to becoming a steward. Reach out to us. We'd love to get the scouts to communicate with you. They're wonderful people, and they'll hold your hand through this process. But by becoming a steward, whether you want to show off your goats, do classes on your apiary or overnight lodging, we will waive the first 6 months of host fees to encourage that opportunity. At the end, Wayne, and I highlighted this earlier, and it's connection. We're all about connecting people to enriching experiences in nature. It is a connection to self, is a connection to the outdoors, it's a connection to the steward. We're very social creatures, and we have come from the natural world. It was only 120 years ago where 90+% of us lived in rural America, rural international, and we still have a connection, an innate appreciation and connection to that. And Yonder's all about that rediscovery and that wonder. So thank you very much. I appreciate the time on the presentation today.
Ken, that was awesome. And also, guys, everybody, think about how wonderful the two different benefits that Tim just offered to us as a community. So we're gonna work our hardest from the leadership side are here to just encourage you to take advantage of those because you're going to get benefits from them. I'm going to paraphrase an email that I just got today that I'm sure Tim gets a number of, and this has to do with a person who did a stay at our place. So our ranch, as most of you know, has been an ecotourism, agritourism location for many years now, 10 years plus. And we just had a guy that came, and this fella came through one of what's called the volunteer-based organizations. He came through, I think, WWOOFing, which is Wide World of Organic Farming. And in this case, he wasn't paying to stay. He was actually getting paid through having his room and board being taken care of. He was doing work for us. He was working somewhere in the range of 25 hours a week. And he was with us for 3 months or so. And honestly, his transition from us was it actually convinced, he's from Ohio, by the way, it convinced him that he wanted to stay in the West. So he went from working with us to moving into the Denver area. Well, I'm just going to say this because it's just reality. We didn't actually end very well. He had said he was going to be around for about 3 more weeks, and all of a sudden one day he came and said, "I've got to leave tonight." And he knew that was probably not very professional on his part, but he just had this opportunity to get the job in Denver. This was during the pandemic, by the way. And we were in great shape in terms of personal relationship as friends, but you know, there was a little bit of a business tension there. And I hadn't heard from him since he left, and that was easily a month ago. So I got this email today, and it was so incredible because he wrote this email and said, "Wayne, I wanted to reach out. I have to tell you what an amazing time I had. This guy is a total city guy, by the way, your farm. I learned so much. I had so much of an experience that I want to do something for you." And he said, "I have an uncle that's a painter." And I took a photo when I was there of a kind of a landscape, you know, circumstance, and maybe there might have been a rainbow in it or something at the time. He said, "I gave it to my uncle, and he has painted a painting for you, and you're going to be getting it. I want you to make sure you are aware that it's going to be coming, and so don't be surprised." And then he said, "Even though we didn't leave on the best of grounds, and I feel bad about that because that was my fault," he said, "I will remember my time at your place for my entire life, and it had a huge positive effect on me." I'll actually publish that email at some point here onto the Eat site, but I'll even put it as one of the comments on the when we publish the webinar here on the site. But that was so cool, Tim, and I'm sure you've gotten lots of those. Do you have anyone that stands out to you? Not so much about your place. Maybe it's about somewhere else that somebody stayed, even in the last few months, even Yonder-wise, or even if it's about yours. And then, Mark, please throw out any other questions, or Reeve, if you have them before. I don't want to dominate this, but why don't you go ahead and answer that?
Wayne. You know, Wayne, that's a fantastic story. I appreciate you sharing that, and it just reaffirms the fact that this is not a single one-off to ABC Acres experiences in the evolution to Yonder. Everybody is touched with the connection to nature, and I really appreciate you sharing that because I get comments like that when guests are departing, and we have the sign-in book and the guest book, and it's just, dare I say, it makes you feel really good that these folks can take time out of their busy lives, come in, connect with each other, connect with nature, reset and recharge before they go back and take that with them and hopefully positively impact their community, their local farmers markets, and any sort of decisions that are made for the future well-being of land stewardship and in the environment for long-term health and wellness. So thank you for sharing that.
And I have two comments. In the section, so I will just say that. This is from Faye Christie, and she says that I would so love to be able to do this. My family originally started in Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe, but are scattered around the globe. I wish I could do the same in order to get them and their children engaged in a similar operation somewhere in the world.
That's fantastic, and I champion that and encourage that. You'll be happy to know that Yonder has a number of advisors, both nationally and internationally. We have such a young lady in South Africa developing our presence on the African continent. We have folks in Europe as well as finalizing some details in New Zealand and Australia, not to mention here in North America. So kudos to you. If Yonder can assist you with that, please get a hold of us. We'd love to champion that alongside you.
So yeah, I think she is in New Zealand. She says, I am in New Zealand.
So, good. Yeah. Very good. We'll look forward to seeing you on Yonder soon.
Yeah. So this one is from Tessa, and she says, not really a question, but a comment. One group that farmers might consider marketing to is plein air outdoor landscape artists, either daily visits or longer for groups or individuals.
Oh, that's a really good idea. I have seen local farms in my community in Western Montana. They will engage with painters, with artists, and they'll set up some sort of painting day where half a dozen artists will come. They'll set up their easels and they'll be painting landscape shots. And then folks will come in and buy a ticket, and then they just get to meander around the farm, and they get to talk to that artist in real time and learn about the different techniques, what they see, their eye, and then they get to learn about that artist. And it's a great opportunity for that artist to then be able to promote their individual talent. So, and to your point, I don't really believe there is a cap on what could be an endeavor to engage in on a farm. You know, it's a very nature immersive destination to begin with. And I think we have to have a sense of connectivity on what we're inviting onto the farm that is full of wonder and learning and education. So that sounds wonderful. I appreciate you putting that forward. Thank you.
And thank you, Reed. Yeah, no problem. Other than that, there are no more questions, just comments. Thank you. Great presentation. And I think this one is from Alicia. So yeah, there are a lot of thanks.
Well, I appreciate that. I really do. And Wayne, just to say again, really pleased that the universe put us in touch 3 years ago, and we've continued to stay close. And kudos to you on your endeavor with the community and your followers. My heart is in regenerative ag and permaculture. I believe a healthy natural world is a direct correlation to a healthy mind, body, and soul. And Yonder is certainly excited to be establishing ourselves in the industry to do our part. And anything we can do to champion your endeavors, certainly look forward to that opportunity.
Well, we appreciate that. And we are right at the top of the hour. We do have time. You could throw in a last question, maybe a Reed or Mark, if you have any comments or questions that you'd like to have. I don't know whether Whitney or Bill are there to where they'd like to make a last comment. I think I've said anything and everything I need to, and Tim gave a wonderful presentation. That last little point, by the way, there, as he said, that made me think of several things. And I had not thought about the artist side. And my wife is an artist, but we could absolutely do that at our place and have. I know if I just put out probably an email to 20 artists, 5 at a time would probably volunteer to come out and do things. We actually have one artist who has painted a number of our shipping containers that we have, and he's well known all over our region. And he brings people out all the time to show them his art on our shipping containers because he's obviously proud of it and enjoys it. But he also, I know he's gotten clients by doing that.
Yeah.
People have seen.
Yeah, I think you can be inventive like that. That's fantastic. Yeah, no, I think you need to be inventive like that. People are starved to get out into the natural world, connection to nature, and that complements it really well. And so I would just say in closing for me, if folks have any questions, look at the handout. The contact information is there. feel free to reach out via the online platform or through email. We'd love to have a conversation with you. So thanks again, Wayne. Great stuff.
All right. Mark, anything from you? And I'll just finish it with this, and then when I'm done, and we'll just say out, as we say. Look at the WeFunder site. You might want to look at the potential for an investment there. Second, get a hold of Tim as it relates to doing a stewardship, because I know a number of you will. Remember, you're going to get an email where I'm going to ask you in a poll to just tell us which of you have those kinds of properties where you could be potentially stewards. And then finally, go visit one of these sites. Take advantage of this amazing EAT 2020 discount that we're getting. So, Tim, we thank you so much for that. And with that, Mark, why don't you take us out?
Thanks, Wayne.